Hello, operator Starsky here. Uh, we have a blackout first time in a week. But anyways, guys, we had thousands of blackouts already and we don't care. So, welcome to our stream tonight. Basically, we have it's 9:30 p.m. and tomorrow uh, marks the year since the beginning of the invasion. And I would like to make this stream specifically because around this time, exactly 1 year ago, we were all following the news. We were all following the messages from Russia and messages from our partners and friends, and everybody was so anxious, nervous. I remember exactly 1 year ago, this very around this time, 9:10 p.m. I walked out fudge, and I had a small chat, like with a girl, and I knew that tomorrow will be a different day, absolutely different day, different world will start. So I packed my bag and I went to sleep. And this story, I was telling this story probably 100 times already. Yesterday I had 7 interviews, and today I had 2, 3. There will be one with the London Times. But still, I would like to share it with you guys because I feel it's not fair, that I was telling all those stories to journalists, but I never really talked with you about it, about the first battle in Hostomel. So we have a lot of friends, and guys, I'm so happy that you are with me tonight because I live alone and with a dog, and he feels alone as well because I'm always out, and I'm happy that I have you tonight here with me so I could share my story. I prepared a map here. Oh no, that's a different picture. I prepared a map for you. Let me show it. Here it is. So 1 year ago, 9:10 p.m., I packed all my stuff, which mostly was bag, like alert bag, alarm bag, how you call it, with like underwear and first aid kit and things like that. And we are a bit crazy when it comes to underwear because every law enforcement officer, every soldier, every firefighter, every dude wearing uniform, we have this fear that you always gotta wear a clean underwear because if you get wounded, for example, and then some beautiful nurse gonna take off your clothes to treat your wounds, and so a go bag. Thank you so much, Deb. Go bag. Yeah, bug out bag. So that's the story. And I also prepared my 2 rifles for some reason. I don't know, because I thought that we were gonna hold defense for like months in Hostomel, which was not the case. But then I went to sleep and 5 a.m. I woke up because my windows were shaking because of the explosions. And I think there were like 5 explosions in Kiev, and 5 a.m. it's very quiet. There are no cars out there, nothing like that. And those explosions were, even though they were not, they didn't happen close to my location, maybe, I don't know, but you could hear them very, very well because it was so quiet in the morning. And that very moment I got up, I took all my stuff, I took my bag, I took my rifles, I took my dog, and I brought my dog to my ex. Wasn't the best idea, actually, considering the fact that she was my ex, but I couldn't do anything. So I also left my rifles there because they were freaking heavy, and I decided that I still have like AK at the base and things like that. And then I caught a car, and I went straight to Hostomel. And this is when I would like to show you where it happened. So here we have Kiev here, right? This is the city of Kiev. And I live in this general area in Kiev, okay? And every single morning since 2016, I had to make all this way through Kiev towards Hostomel. And this is Hostomel, Irpin, Vorzel, Bucha. And I had to make this way every single morning. And every single evening I had to return home. It would take me probably 2 hours one way. So I would spend like 3-4 hours a day just going to and from my base, just because I love my job so much. Not really. So I was en route to Hostomel, and wait a minute. And while heading towards Hostomel, I received multiple calls from my friends, from my colleagues. Also, my comrade called me and said that our base was hit with a cruise missile while I was on my way. And when I arrived, I saw this. So, Russian cruise missile, obviously it was a caliber type of missile. It hit my base, but again, because it's a high precision, super modern, no analogs Russian missile, it didn't hit anything, it just exploded in the green area. You can see that building on the background, and you can see the size of this crater comparing to that building. And that building, it's actually a civilian building. It's located on the territory of our base, but it's separate from it. During 90s, this base belonged to the armed forces of Ukraine, and some of people who lived, basically served there. They were registered, their place of living, right? Their home address was registered in that building. And later, the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Ministry of Defense, passed this whole base to the National Guard of Ukraine. But that very house, it was separate from us, even though it was on our territory, and mostly like civilians and ex-militaries with their kids lived there. And of course, this house was instantly stripped of its windows. Oh, and by the way, we have our electricity back. But anyways, nobody got hurt. And the only thing that was damaged was like a bunch of trees. And we had a lot of dirt like everywhere around the base. So yeah, luckily nobody died, nobody got hurt or injured, nothing like that. But the crater was impressive, I can tell you that. And remember, that very day Russians said, oh, we have no light again. What a bummer. The Russians said that they hit military objects located in Ukraine using their precise weapons and killed plenty of, military personnel and yada yada. That's a BS. You can see the result of their high precision strike. I'm happy that it looked like that, and I'm happy that their missiles are that precise, because I can talk to you today. So let's return to our small map. Here it is, and I would like to show you around Hostomel a bit. Yeah, so this is Hostomel. It's you have to understand that Hostomel is a strange town, let's say. What makes it strange is that it's long, okay? It goes like this, and like this, and it looks like I don't know, banana with an appendix, something like that. And the Hostomel airport is like around 3 kilometers away from the very Hostomel, the very base. So it's kind of further away from the civilization, right? And that's exactly where I served. And if we take a look at the airport, so here we can see the runway, and in the Microsoft Flight Simulator, by the way, even before I started serving there, this was my airport of choice. This was my home base, because it's too expensive to keep your little airplane at parked at Borispil Airport. Anyways, and this is the airport. This is its territory. Basically, it looks like this, and like this, and like this. I'm not good with painting, anyways. My base is this place here, this little square attached to it. So we served next to the airport, and because of that, we were asked by the higher command to provide defense for the airport using our наявними силами та засобами, using all we had. And what we had that day wasn't a lot. It's not a dong, Isaac. Isaac. It's an airport, okay? We didn't have a lot of stuff because couple of days prior to the invasion, 90% of my brigade was deployed on the east, specifically in the area of Stanitsa Luhanska, together with the armed forces. Why it happened like right before the invasion. Was it some kind of, I don't know, some kind of evil plot? No, it wasn't. It was planned. It was a planned deployment, planned rotation, so-called. And we spent numerous months before that training together with the armed forces of Ukraine, participating in mutual military exercise, also different military exercise together with our international partners. And after that, we basically loaded all of our tanks and all of our BTRs and all of our personnel, all of our battalions and anti-air battalions, and they departed eastwards. What kind of personnel was left at the base? So at the base we had a company of conscripts that belonged to the we call it supply battalion. And we specifically have our supply battalion made of conscripts because conscripts don't participate in combat. They shouldn't, according to our legislation. We don't bring them to the front lines, unlike Russians. And they usually do all kinds of supply maintenance work, patrol and stuff like that. So our professional soldiers can train to fight and do their combat duties, right? And the conscripts provide everything else, so our base and can function, and our professional soldiers can do their duties. So I think it's a normal thing. So what happened next? As soon as this attack happened, our conscripts, specifically 2 platoons of conscripts, they rushed towards to their positions at the airfield. Also, everybody started receiving weapons and equipping and loading magazines, returning to the number of personnel that was defending the air base and our base. So one company of conscripts, small amount of officers and sergeants. We're talking about the professional contract soldiers and sergeants, and officers that serve in the headquarters. And it's like military psychologists, press service, accountants, officers who pay soldiers salary and things like that. So those guys were basically defending the base, military firefighters, because at the base I had my small office, my small press center, located next to our fire station, military fire station, located at the base. And we were fighting shoulder to shoulder during that morning. So 2 platoons of Ukrainian National Guardsmen, conscripts, but furious conscripts, rushed towards their positions. And let me show you how it looked like on this map using my drawing skills. Oh my god, how does it? Oh. So Russians, and let me pick a different color for Russians. Op4, okay? Op4 landed here and here in those general areas, from what we can say. And they tried to move in this general direction, okay, towards the airport, towards all the facilities. That very moment, which is very important, this group of Russian paratroopers, landed around here, and those rushed this way towards our base. And how many Russian paratroopers were there? So judging from the number of their Mi-8 helicopters, I assume that optimistically there were about 200 men. Pessimistically, there were around 350 men. So we can say that each group consisted of approximately 100 men, approximately a company of elite Russian DVD, Spetsnaz, and shit like that. So what happened next? Here you can... Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So they went this way, one of the groups, and took their positions here. Here in this area of the airfield, there's ramps, and Antonov have their different aircraft parked there. Those two huge aircraft, those are Ante aircraft, and different airplanes that were parked there. This airplane was completely burned to ashes when we found it after liberating Hostomel. This airplane moved here for some reason. For some reason, Russians moved a lot of airplanes, but I will talk about it a bit later. So Russians moved here this way, and obviously they tried to make all the way here. And this is the building, this is the control tower, and basically flight control center, right? Now, our conscripts, they were in this general area, so they were fighting between those buildings. They had their positions there, and they had to maneuver between those buildings. And again, that very moment, imagine tens and tens of attack helicopters in the air. Those attack helicopters were spraying everything with rockets. And not only they were trying to strike our positions, they also tried to destroy several vehicles parked on the ground. I know exactly that one of the Antonov employees was found in his car. He turned to ashes, and we could only find 2 legs in that burnt car because it was hit by a Russian helicopter, by a rocket, and all of those buildings here. This one is hangar with Mriya, this hangar with Ruslan, this control center. They look like, how you call it in English? Oh my god! They have like hundreds of holes in them, and those holes were made by Russian rockets fired by Russian helicopters. There were a lot of those. The battle was very, very intense because all the helicopters were flying around very low and spraying everybody with rockets and fire from their automatic cannons. And Russian paratroopers had some very strong air support that moment. We started shooting them down. And specifically here in this area, let me show you like this. So specifically here we found one Russian helicopter destroyed. That was Mi-8 carrying troops. We destroyed it using the manpad. And approximately here, I think, there was another helicopter that was shot down with the manpad. And this helicopter, by the way, I think it was first helicopter that was destroyed. Here we found another helicopter that was destroyed. All the wrecks are mostly there still until this day. So in that general area we found 3 wrecks. More wrecks were found there in the fields because Russians managed to make controllable landing of 2 of those Ka-52 alligators, and those were, by the way, taken by Ukrainian defense establishment. So those 2 were found there, and another wreck was found, I think, a bit to the north. But those 3 wrecks, you can see them today at Hostomel. So let's return to our map, and this is exactly the place where the main combat was happening. So it's very hard to draw an actual front line, okay, that day, but it looked something like this. And by the way, those houses that you can see here, most of them don't exist anymore. Most of them were destroyed by helicopters, and later I think they were some of those were destroyed by our own artillery when they were used by Russians as their barracks. But majority were, of course, destroyed by Russian helicopters that were just... I can only describe it as spraying, because they were just shooting their rockets like everywhere. So they were fighting there, and combat in this very area took approximately 2 hours. You can imagine just how intense it was, because the guys that were there, they had to maneuver for 2 hours straight, take their positions and switch their positions, and then take cover again whenever the helicopter was on the attack course towards them, and they had to take cover from those helicopters. It was hilarious. I mean, I have never seen so many Russian aircraft flying at the same time, and so many different types of those aircraft. So why were the Ka-52 so close? They were flying very low because the clouds were very, very low that day, and helicopters were flying literally over our heads. I remember then that here at my base, and this is what you can see from the satellite. Here at my base, I saw a Russian helicopter flying very, very low over my position. Like, this was his trajectory, and pardon, this was his trajectory. So he flew this way, and I was here. And here we were together with our firefighters. Again, those buildings, they don't exist anymore because they were completely destroyed when Russians retreated from Hostomel. They set everything on fire, and all those buildings, they don't exist anymore. But back then they were intact yet. And that helicopter flew over me, and when I saw it like turning behind the building, I thought, oh my god, this Mi-24 looks big. Like in computer games, like even bigger. So this is where our firefighters started shooting at those helicopters. And at first I thought, like, why? Like, why are you doing this? I mean, those helicopters, they look like they're armored and you cannot destroy them even using, I don't know, a freaking tank. No. The Ka-52 that was flying in this direction, approximately this direction, it caught flames from our fire, from rifles and machine guns. And later, that Ka-52 burning, it went somewhere in this general direction. And that, my friends, was the first helicopter that I saw literally with my eyes that was damaged or destroyed using the concentrated rifle fire from like rifles and machine guns. And I was like, whoa, what a surprise. I didn't see that coming. Okay. So I joined my colleagues, my brave firefighters, and we started shooting those helicopters. Again, we had to switch our position a lot. We had to find cover because helicopters were at that moment circling around our base. They were attacking basically this way and this way. So they were circling in majority of cases around the airport, but also flying over our base and trying to spot at least some personnel and hit this personnel with their rockets and automatic cannons. And I can tell you this. So, of course, it looks very, very scary, okay? It looks scary when you see that helicopter flying. Of course, it's loud like hell and it's kind of sketchy, okay? But at the same point, they're only sketchy because you don't know what happens, right? So what happens when you see a helicopter flying between those buildings? The pilot is concentrated on his avionics. He is very, very concentrated in order not to hit a building, not to die, and things like that. They don't care about you, okay? But at the same time, when they are at the attack course, when the helicopter is on the attack course towards you, that is the moment when you better find a better place to be, because that is when your life is under danger, okay? That's when you're risking the most, because they can see you, they can spot you, probably, and they can shoot a bunch of rockets, and they have a lot of those. So we had to keep this 360 degrees of awareness. And Dutch Trader, we personally, my brigade didn't have any Stingers. We had 2 man-pad groups at the territory of the airport, and those were armed with old Soviet man-pads called Igla. And those were used to shoot down the attack helicopters like Ka-52 Alligators. Yurko, yes, that was very close to Kiev. And they got like 2 kilometers closer. We will talk about it. So what happened next? Next, in about an hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. Approximately after an hour, My guys that were fighting at the territory of the airport in this very location. So Russians were approximately here, and they were approximately here, shooting at my guys, and they took their positions in this general direction. Okay, so let's draw like a small trench here. My boys were stuck between those buildings, and first contact happened when commander of the company that protected Hostomel, he was driving his armored vehicle this way, and in this place, at this crossroad, this armored vehicle was hit by a grenade from a grenade launcher, and then they turned here, and they were shot at. So they made this like circle, they returned here, and that's when the battle started. That was the first contact versus Russian paratroopers. Later, I think third platoon also rushed here towards their comrades to help them, because they were overwhelmed and they were already running out of ammo. So they continued fighting. Again, my guys, I talked to them while we were being evacuated to Kiev, and they told us that as soon as they saw first Russian paratroopers falling down from their fire, it was a huge morale boost. As well as when they saw first helicopters being shot down and turning into like huge fireballs in the sky. It was a huge morale boost to everybody, because of course, like when you're in the combat for the first time in your life, and I'm talking about those conscripts, it gets kind of uncomfortable, okay, but again, our conscripts had the same training as our professional soldiers, and the reason for that is that approximately 20% of those conscripts eventually sign contract in my brigade and continue serving in my brigade. Why do they do that? It's because my brigade is so cool, basically. That's the only reason. So they choose to continue serving and to continue learning, and then they become, those kick-ass professional soldiers, like trained killers, like Chris Kyle, with beards and tattoos and everything else. That what usually happens. Level 70, how many were shot down and how many crashed on their own? We know that approximately 6 of them were shot down. Again, the numbers, I don't trust them much, because, in the beginning we were talking about 35-40 helicopters over Hostomel. Later, when my commander talked to different generals and different people from the anti-air defense, he learned that 140 helicopters in the morning crossed the border from Belarus to Ukraine. And I think between 70 and 100 helicopters were involved into this air raid, and majority of those were attack helicopters. The reason why I think it's true is because imagine 40 helicopters. How much time would it take for them to shoot out all of their rockets and shells? Not too much time, because attack helicopter carries like a bunch of rockets, a couple of hundreds of shells for its automatic cannon, and what it can do is just shoot out everything it has, and then just move out, because there's no point for this helicopter to be there. And this is why those groups of helicopters, they were approaching us, shooting everything they had, and they were moving out, and other groups of helicopters would arrive instead of them. And because there were up to 100 helicopters, this is what happened, in my opinion. That's why this fight continued for so long, for 2 hours. So let's return to our map. I feel like, like a history teacher right now. To say that we were like nervous or something, I cannot say that, because before this attack happened, I saw a lot of my friends there, and we were like giggling like idiots, like we always do in the army. We throw jokes, and it's a usual thing, nothing special. So we weren't like nervous, and my friend from the infantry platoon that was commanding the infantry of conscripts that were fighting over there, he told me that first time he saw one of his soldier that had like stupor, he was frozen in one place. He thought that he was like he has this like stupor, it usually happens like when people are scared like as hell. No, it wasn't like that, because like when he asked why don't you shoot, why aren't you shooting, the soldier said, I have no ammo, all I can do is just observe the situation, sorry. That's when we realized that we have to change our plans, because we're running out of ammo. And so we made a report to our commander, and our commander ordered to move out from the airport through the base and out of the base, in order to save lives of our personnel. Because think yourself, we have approximately 300 Russian paratroopers, we have gazillion of helicopters flying around, and we ran out of anti-air measures, missiles, and our firearms will soon stop shooting because our ammo is depleting. And by that time I had something like 1.5 magazines for my AK. Commander 401, hello buddy, nice to see you, join us please. So our guys started moving out from the airport. Here is like fence, fence between the airport and my base, and there were passages in this fence. So our guys started moving out in this general direction through the base. Okay. And as you remember, I will pick a pink color. As you remember, this was my general position at the base that time. So my sector, like what I could observe from my position, it looked something like this. This was my sector. And our guys were moving out this way, so through me, and then this in that general direction. So when we made sure that they left the airport, me and those firefighters that were with me, we decided to stay there and observe the situation. And after a while, and we knew, because we had radios, we knew that our forces already left that area. So after a while, we saw movement approximately like, no wait, it's a wrong color. We saw movement approximately here in this area, and of course they didn't look like our guys. So we opened fire, and the distance at this picture it doesn't look much, but from here to here there's approximately, let's say, maybe 500 meters, maybe 400. No, 500 is too much. I think around 400 meters or something like that. I think around 4. So we had a shootout with them there, but again, it wasn't a long shootout because I almost spent all of my ammo on helicopters. And that's when we were forced to move out. And here I want to tell you some very, very funny story. So we GTFO'd in this general direction. Oh my god, this is the most perfect arrow I ever made in my life. We GTFO'd in this general direction, and here, you remember that third group of Russian paratroopers? They took control of this area, and this area was our gates to our base. So this is where we were shot at again. But anyways, did you have here in protection? I think our grenade launcher operators did. I don't use that stuff. It's for cowards. So, but that's not the story. The story is, my sergeant, Stas, you probably saw him. He's my best buddy, and he's our sergeant major. He's the main sergeant of my brigade. He's the most aggressive and angriest SOB that you can imagine, okay? Because he's supreme sergeant of the base. So he told his commander, my commander, that he left his things, he left his documents and everything at the base, and we were already moving out. And commander said, if you're sure that you can return, you can go back and pick your documents. So Stas took a car and rushed towards his office, and it was in the middle of the base, and there were nobody else out there already. Nobody, like no Ukrainian guardsmen, okay? So he rushed towards his headquarters, towards his office. He picked his documents, and then he noticed a car that belonged to our brigade, and it was parked outside. And he thought, probably I should pick a car because, we may need it, So he went to this car, and while going to this car, he noticed that at the gates there were guys wearing green uniforms, and because you can see those guys there like every day, the first thing you have is those guys must be our guards, right, at the gates. So Stas, and you can imagine Stas, okay, this big and angry mofo. So he stood there in the middle of the base, and he shouted at those guys, like, get the heck out of there. Okay? And they started shooting at him. And then he realized, oh, that probably they're not our guys. Okay, so he jumped into the car and he GTFO'd. Imagine Russian paratroopers. So They flew from Belarus, they landed, there's like those helicopters flying and shooting and everything, and they're like, ho ho, alright, we're taking control over those Ukrainian nationalists. And then they take control over the gates, and they just stand there smoking, and like nervous and cheering. And then they see this crazy man in the middle of the base, just standing there and shouting at them, "Get the F out of here!" And they were like, probably they were kind of insulted or something, so they started shooting at him. So that was a very, very funny story. I don't blame our sergeant, because aside of the fact that he's our supreme sergeant, supreme NCO of the base, he's ex-airborne, he's ex-paratrooper. And paratroopers in Ukraine, they are adrenalists. They are like people who cannot live without adrenaline and extreme, So, yeah, so he had his portion of that. Let's return to our map, shall we? What happened next? Next, we started moving out in this direction. So here we have like gardens, like this green area. It's gardens. And how different is like a garden from a forest? Because forest has a lot of flora, okay, around you, and it's very thick, and it's very easy to hide there, and it's very easy to avoid even being shelled by artillery, because 50 meters into forest and you're safe from the artillery, from all kinds of artillery, bombs and things like that. Gardens is small trees, like small trees, and they're located far from each other, like 30 meters between trees. You cannot hide there well. But we had to, because the helicopters were circling over our heads, and every time, like every 2 minutes, somebody would shout, "Air!" and we had to fall down, and then 3-4 helicopters would circle this way, searching for us. And we were moving out again in this general direction. It's behind my photo over there. So we were moving out, and here I have a small video for you. I don't think I ever published it. Yeah, so I have a small video for you.
Что ты сейчас? Харьков. Это свои. Это работаем мы, все нормально.
Все, отходим отсюда, что засели? Отходим за забор, все, уходим.
So basically here you can see those conscripts that were just fighting Russian paratroopers. Those conscripts that just moved out from the battle, and you see that there's not many of them actually. So what happened was our guys, they covered with their fire, covered our retreat from the base, and officers ordered our conscripts to move out. And then they made sure that everybody left the base, and then our commander of the base and our sergeant major, they were last people who left the base. And that's when we moved through those gardens. We call them gardens, actually, because they're gardens, right? They grow some apples, I think, there, something like that. It's just like a huge gardens. This was, by the way, one of the first videos that I made, because I thought, dude, you are like a press officer, right? And your job is actually to record all this. You have to run around with the camera like crazy and make videos of your heroic soldiers. And when I took out my camera, my soldiers looked at me like, "But man, what are you doing?" So yeah, that's why, you know, my biggest regret was that I never made enough videos of that. Unfortunately, we were busy. Not Ohorod, Jesus Christ. It's gardens. Trust me, that's gardens. Okay. All right. So Russian paratroopers took control over the airport on the first place, because that was their main target. And if you don't mind, I will be smoking. That was their first goal. Okay, they wanted to take control over the airport, and 18 IL-76 cargo airplanes carrying Russian troops were already heading towards the Hostomel. And just so you could imagine what we're talking about here, this is IL-76, Russian and partially Ukrainian cargo airplane. This bastard is big. It's kind of huge. And they had 18 of those already heading towards Hostomel in order to land their troops. And their plan was to deploy big mechanized brigade. Jeffersman 18 IL-76. We know the number because that evening, basically, no, not in the evening, in the morning, Hristo Groziev, investigator from Bellingcat, and I trust this dude very much, he said that 18 IL-76 from Pskov, and we're talking about Pskov airborne troops, they left Pskov, they took off, and they were heading towards Kiev. So logically, they were gonna land in Hostomel. So that was their plan. Why it didn't work? For the very simple reason. 2 howitzers. Remember, I told you that 90% of my brigade were deployed with our artillery, with our like anti-air, like majority of our anti-air measures and tanks and things like that. What was going on through my mind, I will talk about it. But we had 2 howitzers hidden not far from Hostomel. And as soon as we left the base, our commander radio messaged our howitzers and ordered them to strike the freaking runway. So our howitzers, even though we only had 2 of those, but they opened fire at the runway. And we also had one kamikaze drone. Kamikaze because we didn't care much about this drone, like, you know. But this drone was observing the area and it was coordinating the artillery. So artillery hit the runway, it damaged the runway, and it started striking Russian paratroopers that were taking positions near those hangars, basically. So that was first artillery strike on the Hostomel airfield. That was performed by our howitzers. Also, our commander called the commander of the 72nd Brigade, that was, by the way, brought to Hostomel 2 days prior to this invasion. So 72nd Brigade, just so you could understand, because it's very important, guys. This is Hostomel, right? This is Kiev, right? And all the way here on the south, there's Bila Tserkva. And 72nd Brigade is based at Bila Tserkva. This is their home base. So 2 days prior to the invasion, when it was already clear that Russians were gonna attack us, and we received messages from all kinds of international intelligence agencies and our partners. 72nd Brigade moved towards Kiev, and then they moved towards Hostomel. And they were not there with us at the Hostomel, but here we have river called Irpin, okay, and I think it goes wait a second, I screwed it up. I think it goes approximately like this river Irpin, okay, Irpin River. Yeah, I think. And this, my friends, was our line of defense. So this is the line that was under our control. Right side of it was Ukrainian controlled territory, and left side of it, approximately, let me make it so you could understand. Approximately this whole territory. So the front line would look like this, I would say. All this was Russian territory. This was the gray territory, okay? Between those lines, it was the gray territory. Like this. This is where a lot of combat happened and things like that. So this is approximately how the front line looked like back then, so you could understand. So yeah, my commander called the commander of the 72nd Brigade and asked for artillery support, and 72nd Brigade started striking the airfield, and again, using our coordinates, they started striking the Russian paratroopers that were hanging out for the last time at Hostomel airport. And that was the last thing that we saw, basically, because we moved out. And later, I think we were... Oh, I'm sorry, that's coffee. And later, I think we were somewhere here, in this general area, or... Oh my god. Oh my god. Uh-huh. So we were somewhere here, because I remember this moment clearly. So somewhere in this location. This is where I saw Ukrainian Su-24 bombers that were heading this way. And here is where they started bombing the runway. So they started striking the runway with their bombs. And again, what does it tell us? It tells us that they had a briefing, they had their aircraft prepared. So basically this was the plan, to destroy the runway. And the reason why this airport didn't turn into, I don't know, like a stronghold, okay? It was very simple. First of all, as I already showed you, the line of defense that we had, it was situated here. The reason why you cannot just walk across this defense line was because it's a river, guys. It's a river. You cannot cross it with tanks. You cannot walk across it. It's a big river. And this is why we had our troops located somewhere here, generally, okay? This is Moshun, by the way. This is where we had some very bad combat with Russian troops. But it's a different story. My guys were there as well, by the way. Russians could not just walk across this river because it's a river. You cannot walk on river, okay? So they tried to set up temporary bridges and things like that, and those bridges were destroyed by our artillery as well. And the reason why it was unreasonable to keep holding the airport is because this was the road that Russians used to, as well as this one, to get to Hostomel, to bring all of their columns to Hostomel and take control over the Antonov airfield, as well as this road. So basically, if you have a stronghold in the airport, protected by, I don't know, 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers, let's say, or like 3,000 Ukrainian soldiers, they will get surrounded instantly and killed eventually, okay? So it was pointless. On the other hand, destroying the runway, it was very, very wise decision, because Russians only needed this runway in order to deploy their mechanized brigade and rush towards Kiev. And you can imagine just how close they were to Kiev, because this distance is approximately 10 kilometers. It's very close, guys. It takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get from Hostomel to Kiev by car, actually. So as soon as this runway was destroyed, as soon as Russian helicopters moved out and Russian cargo airplanes were not able to land in Hostomel, what happened to Russian paratroopers? And that, my friends, is a very interesting story, because that very evening, and we were already evacuated to Kiev, that very evening, Ukrainian paratroopers from the 95th Brigade, I think 80th Brigade, and those are air assault brigades, they landed in Hostomel. But before they landed, they arrived on their helicopters and they shot at those Russian troops that they could see, that they could spot on the ground. And then they landed, and my good buddy Sashko Pogrebisky from the 95th Brigade, he was in that very company, that special company that was hunting Russian paratroopers all night. And they were hunting and turning them into good Russians for the whole night. They did not control the whole airport because there was still some hard battle in that area, and there was not some kind of defined front line. There were several different groups of Russian paratroopers, several different groups of our Ukrainian paratroopers, and they were like shooting each other. Ukrainian paratroopers had losses, but Russian paratroopers lost a lot of people. And here I can tell you something about our guys. So what about our losses? How many people did my brigade lost in Hostomel? And let me remind you that we had up to 200 men, rather even much less than 200 men. So we lost, and this is like, I still think that this is a miracle, but we lost 0 soldiers. So in 2 hours of battle, we had one guy that was wounded in his rear part, but his medic and received his treatment, so he was fine. As for irreversible losses, we didn't lose any men. They're all alive. So to me, it's like biggest miracle ever. Or probably it's, because we have such a great training or commanders, but imagine this crazy battle with those crazy helicopters shooting everything with their rockets, and conscripts, not professional infantry, conscripts, Ukrainian guys 18, 20 years old. The only thing that made them different from all other conscripts in other units was that they had professional training according to NATO standards. And they, almost all of them made it out. Unfortunately, several of our conscripts, they were captured as prisoners. They were alive, and in about a month we managed to exchange them. So when they returned to us, they told us 2 very interesting things. First of all, they told us that they were interrogated by Russian officers. And guys, this is hilarious. First thing they were asked by Russian officers during this interrogation was, why did you start shooting at us? Why did you shoot at us? So those idiots were convinced that they would just land in Hostomel and we would just come up to them and give them cakes and flowers and I don't know, pizza, and say, hello, my brothers. So they fell victims to their own propaganda, guys. They decided that they would just roll through Ukraine and capture all the cities, and people would be like greeting them as liberators and say, oh my God, we were so tired from this fascist regime of Jewish president that was killing Russian-speaking people in Ukraine. That's exactly like, this is what they believed, guys. They live in this reality where this insane BS is a real thing. Unfortunately, there are some people on the West that also believe in this, but there's not a lot of such people. All the Russians believed in this. But there was something else. So second thing that those guys that returned, what they told us was that approximately on the 2nd or 3rd day, those Russians after beating them up, of course, but they weren't like injured much, luckily. So they were forced to collect Russian bodies scattered in the airport. How do you think? How many did they collect? So they told us that during the first day of collecting those bodies, and they were collecting them and throwing them into trucks that arrived. So they collected 80 bodies during only the first day of collecting those bodies. They collected 80 bodies of Russian paratroopers. And it was also confirmed by border guards that were also captured at the airport. There were several border guards that were not like a fighting force. You know what border guards do in the airports, right? They do like passport control and things like that. So they were captured as well, and they were also forced to collect those bodies. Because I talked to them. So Russians, optimistically, they lost 80 men during the first day of combat against Ukrainian National Guardsmen, my brigade, the conscripts, and Ukrainian paratroopers. So that's the picture. That's why you will not find a lot of Russian paratroopers that will be able to tell you this story, because they're dead. This is the reality, unfortunately for them and fortunately to us. And here was my first picture that I've sent to my dad because, again, I was very busy, unfortunately. I could not chat much. And I received, like, during this combat, I was constantly receiving messages and calls and everything, and I could not even pick up my phone. So as soon as we moved out from Hostomel, first thing I did, I replied to my dad, and I said everything's fine, and I sent him this picture. I think it was already around 3 p.m., something like that, 4 p.m. maybe. And exactly that moment, after that, I made a video and I published it on my YouTube in Ukrainian language, where I explained to people what happened, because we just went out of combat, and basically that's the story. Later some trucks arrived and evacuated us to Kiev, and in Kiev I joined that Mr. Cameraman, and my brigade joined another brigade of the National Guard. And then I made this beautiful blog in English, and this is how I met you guys. And by the way, one of the guys that were with us, you remember I told you about our Australian volunteer, that kick-ass SAS dude. So he made this beautiful picture to congratulate me with this horrible anniversary. Happy Putin Huilo Day, Pidorasi. Hostomel 24. It's not a holiday. Tomorrow will not be a holiday, guys. But I will still cheer and enjoy this day, because I'm alive and those Pidorasi, they're dead. So this is my story, and I will be happy to answer your questions now. So what happened to Hostomel in the days that followed? Kadyrovites arrived. You remember that huge giant column coming from Belarus. So the fact is, all that 60-kilometer long column it was exactly the mechanized brigade and several other units that were supposed to land in Hostomel that very morning. So you can imagine what could happen if we had like 4,000 men, 4,000 orcs, together with artillery, together with tanks and armored vehicles, landed in Hostomel in the morning of February 24th, 10 kilometers away from Kiev. That would be a disaster. So they had to make all their way from Belarus to Hostomel by land, and we destroyed a lot of them in that column, but they took control over the empty airfield and empty base, and they made a lot of beautiful TikToks. Beautiful is not the word, rather like cringy, okay? They made a lot of those TikToks where they were bragging that they killed 2,000 Ukrainian nationalists at the base. Not only Ukrainian, but NATO nationalists. And then they heroically died and things like that. So this is my story. I hope you liked it. What's the prevalence of PTSD in your unit from the battle? I will tell you after this war is finished, because I think we will all need help after that. But the war is still continues. What does I think you mean pidorasi? It's a bad word. Okay, this is how we usually call Russians, but it's a bad word. You don't say it near children. Kellen, will Hostomel Airport be fixed soon? It's unreasonable to fix Hostomel Airport anytime soon for a simple reason. If it's fixed, and we know that Russians tried to repair it while it was occupied for a month, there are some patches of concrete found at the airport. If it's fixed, Russians will try to capture or destroy it. And if Russians capture this airport, we will try to destroy it. So this runway is doomed. It's doomed to be dead, at least for a while, at least until this war is finished. Have you met Zelensky? I think I saw him. Roger Moody, why didn't they fix the runway? This is a very important question. So the runway was damaged. We saw evidence that Russians tried to repair it, but the problem is there is specific technology that is used to build runways. Runways are made of like huge layers of concrete, and that's not just concrete. That is a specific concrete used to make runways. You cannot just pour the concrete into a hole and consider it fixed. It doesn't work like that. So fixing runways requires some specific technologies. Again, runways are very, very hard to destroy, actually. And that is the reason why this runway was being shelled aggressively for the whole day until late evening, and probably even after that. Because simple artillery shells don't damage it much. It requires like constant artillery fire using heavy artillery, big calibers, bombs, and things like that. There are even specific bombs, anti-runway bombs, that were specifically developed to penetrate through concrete and explode inside. And as hard it is to destroy this runway, as hard it is to repair it. That's why they weren't able to do that. It requires a different approach, different technology, different type of concrete. We saw one IL-76, our observers did. They saw an IL-76 that was circling over Hostomel, I think next day, and it wasn't able to land. How many Spats units made it into Kiev? I think several hundreds of those, and they made it to Kiev prior to the invasion in November, December, I think. Those were actual Russian spies, and I think probably 50% of them died. So who is going to play you in the movie? I hope nobody will. But if I'm in that movie, I hope that Carl Pilkington, my idol, will play me in the movie about Hostomel. How long were the helicopters airborne and shooting? Approximately 2 hours. That whole combat took approximately 2 hours. I don't know the exact time, and I cannot tell you the exact time because I didn't follow the time, unfortunately. When it happened, the least thing I could think about is to peek at my watch. How do your HIMARS cruise like the GLSDBs? I think they love them. I honestly do. Why did they move planes, Max? It's a mystery to me. For some reason, they moved all those planes that were stationed there. I don't know why. I remember when I was recording a blog with Denis Davidov there last summer. I remember we even saw tail stabilizer that stuck in the wing of Ante, and this tail stabilizer belonged to another airplane. So they tried to move this airplane under the wing of Ante, and its tail stabilizer stuck in its wing. Why they did it, I don't know. It remains a mystery to me until this day. But I know for sure that they actually removed everything from all the airplanes that were stationed there. And if you give me just 1 minute, I will show you some pictures that I did. Oh, when was it? Let me see if I made some photographs. I hope I did. May, June, July. I think it was already cold, so it must be autumn. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here it is. Yeah, I found one. I will show you a bunch of those because it's very interesting. So, yeah. My internet is so amazing today. I lost Wi-Fi connection like 4 times this evening. And will you and Denis Davidov be on later today? We will be at the Enforcer stream, I think tomorrow night. So please join us. And also I will be at Mercado tonight at 3 a.m. Kiev time. Approximately in 4 hours, actually. So here's some pictures for you. Just a second. There's just 5 pictures, but they are all awesome. Okay, save S. Save S. Save this one. And this one. And this one. There were a lot of aircraft parked just outside of this hangar with Maria. Some of them were parked inside. And Supreme Commander, how deep is that river? Because the dam was destroyed, the river turned big and deep. Okay. This is how the hangar with Maria looked like last autumn. And one interesting thing about this picture, let me zoom it for you. So Russians like to say that Ukrainians destroyed Maria using artillery. So take a look at the hangar itself. You can see no holes in it. And also because we were using big calibers to strike Russian vehicles that were parked in that huge open spot between two hangars, 152 millimeter shell leaves a big ass crater. You can stand in that crater, and like it's big. You can see 0 craters around Maria whatsoever. There are no artillery craters around it. Not a single shell exploded there in the hangar. However, last time, remember I showed you that video of Russian rocket fired from a Russian helicopter that stuck in its tail stabilizer. I think majority of you must remember that. So that's the proof, basically. And this is another picture here. So those helicopters, this is Cessna with retractable gear. Very nice airplane. And it's one of those airplanes that were stationed at the Antonov airfield, and all of those airplanes were looted by Russians. So this is how this airplane looks on the inside. You can literally see that they took everything, even the seats. And of course, they took all the avionics, all the equipment, everything, altimeters, speedometers, everything. I doubt that, among Russians there are a lot of people who enjoy building kit airplanes. They're not so smart to do that. But they looted everything. They took everything from all the airplanes. They took everything from Ruslan that was parked nearby. That they obviously took everything from Maria. And another thing that makes me curious is that Russians, they showed Maria intact from a distance and from its starboard side. They never show the port side of Maria. And they were there for a month. They had mobile phones. They made a lot of videos, but they never showed how Maria looked on its starboard side, on its left side, which is kind of suspicious. So I think that they destroyed it in order to hide some evidence. We know that in Ruslan, another big airplane, they took a shit in it, and there are 4 places that were found inside of this plane where they attempted to start the fire to destroy it. So I think this was the fate of Maria as well. Probably, I don't know, because there's still ongoing investigation, and we have to wait until the end of the investigation so we could know the details why this beautiful airplane was destroyed. We cannot tell you right now, but again, we have a lot of evidence, and we know that Russians didn't care about preserving Mria. We know that they shot it with rockets from their helicopters. That's the thing. What do the first movies in history have in common with the Russian paratroopers in Hostomel? You can't hear any of them. Yeah, basically it's true. I agree with you, buddy. Okay, here's Mercado Media, and he is in the chat. And by the way, in 4 hours we will have a stream together. So don't forget to join us. Why wasn't Dennis allowed to film Maria when he visited with you? I don't know. There were some security reasons. We were just told by security service, because there was these investigations and investigators hanging around and things like that. So we were told not to film Maria because the investigation was ongoing. For the metal in the cables, El Kudos. I think it can be true, actually. Hammer 225. Starsky status on the unfinished 225. I think we will see it flying after the war is finished, probably. Stephanie Wilson. The Russians could never build anything as great as Maria, so they destroyed her. I think so, because again, everybody, every pilot in the world knows how Maria looks like, and they still shot it. So to them it was like, like revenge. We have to punish those Ukrainians who want to live better than us. But we are great Russians. We are biggest country in the world. We don't let them do it. So basically, that's why they destroyed it. How did Fudge react to the war starting? Deb, it was funny because what I've been told by my ex before I released Fudge from her occupation. He was a bit scared, and when my district of Kiev was hit with missiles, sometimes Fudge would go and hide inside of the bathtub, which is very untypical for Fudge because he hates water. But yeah, I think that he realized that it was dangerous, so he would hide there. Hey MJ, I just viewed your interview with CBS. I think CBC. Or was it CBS? Alright, had to punish Ukrainians for shooting back. Absolutely. Absolutely. Occupation, beeps, it was occupation. Because I don't want to talk about it. Is the runway of Hostomel being restored? Dutch Trader, no, I don't think so. I don't think that it will be restored anytime soon, because again, if it's restored, Russians can try to capture it and use it to create this air bridge once again. We know that Russians have this very typical type of repeating actions all the time, like in Chernobyivka, for example. And if it's captured by Russians, we will destroy it. So it's doomed. Maybe the altimeters were going to the Spetsnaz stuck in the elevator. Could be, but I will tell you secret now, because I can do this. So you remember that Spetsnaz that stuck in the elevator? I lived in the house, and I used to take the same elevator, actually. As for the altimeters, yeah, one interesting thing was that there was this wreckage of Russian K-52 Alligator, and the altimeter, because we found piece of the control panel, and there was altimeter, and this altimeter was showing 0 meters. So I think that it continued working after it exploded and fell on the ground. It was like interesting thing. Did they use any NLAW to take out the helicopters? You can use NLAW against tanks. I don't think that you can use to destroy helicopters. Are you looking forward to the Kerch Bridge going down again? I really do, because I don't like that railway part of this bridge. I don't like it. It sucks. It should disappear. Build a new runway that includes charges that can be set off if Russians try to land. Did you have women in your unit? We had a lot of women that day. Again, we're talking about the headquarters, and a lot of our women worked in the headquarters, like accountants, for example. But we ordered them to go home, which they did. When the war is finished, I want to come down and help with the cleanup. Where do I turn to make it happen? Good question. Unfortunately, I cannot answer it because I'm a military. I don't know yet. In your last stream, you had an ID card with 3 pips on it. Are you a captain? So in Ukrainian army, 4 pips means a captain. 3 pips means a first lieutenant. Let me show you briefly. Ouch. Yeah, so this is my uniform, and this is my rank, which is first lieutenant. We have, like, our colonels also have 3 pips, but they also have like bar in here in the bottom. Do captains in your army have 3 pips as well? Senior lieutenant, yeah. It's between a lieutenant and a captain. Why didn't you IED the roads, and they should do it in the east now as well? We did. In some places we did, in some places we didn't. Ordered the women to go home. Actually, yeah, because I think it was wise. The men that served there, most of us had at least some kind of combat experience. A lot of us, a lot of higher ranked officers that served in the headquarters, we had some combat experience from 2014, 2015, and things like that. Most of women that worked there, they were like completely civilian people who applied to army, and that was their basically like job, you know. So we decided to save them, and of course a lot of them had children, you know, so they went home. Our Sergeant Jane, unfortunately or fortunately, she was on the east already. She wasn't at the headquarters. Again, the base was protected by people who usually don't participate in combat. how does someone become Mrs. Starsky? So it's very easy. You gotta feed me a lot, and that's the only way to win my heart. Are you trying for a new rank? We will see. It's February. I think soon I'm gonna receive a new one, according to our legislation, I think. Will Russia open again second front from Belarus? Wilhelm, I think this might happen. Recently we didn't see any Russian assault groups being formed and grouped on the territory of Belarus, but it may happen. A couple of months ago, I was almost convinced that they were gonna strike, but I think that something happened to potato head mustached man, and he decided not to attack back then. Олександр, доброго вечора і гарного стріму. Дякую величезне. So CBS News. So I think, it was CBS News, and guys, we received 50 requests this month regarding interviews, and journalists wanted to find people that participated in that combat. They only managed to find a couple of men, including me, because there were not so many men protecting Hostomel physically. So I had to take majority of those interviews, and I think it was one of my biggest achievements that I'm alive after this. 50 interviews in a month. Is Max in Kiev? Would he be up to being a guest on a stream if he's up to it? I think he's up to it, but I'm not sure about his talking skills, because he uses translator to translate his thoughts for you, his texts, but he's not a good speaker in terms of English. Unfortunately, he's learning, but he doesn't have enough practice. Maybe in the future. Michaels, what's your favorite dance music to dance at nightclub? I don't remember, because the last time I danced at a nightclub, oh my god, it happened so many years ago. And also when I start dancing, usually people call ambulance. So I only dance when nobody's watching. Is a helmet GoPro now a permanent equipment for you as a press officer? Oh yeah, it is. Big time. Did you get a chance to mech dump a helo? I really hope so. Again, it was impossible to miss a helicopter. Again, in 2017, I shot down a drone from like 150 meters. Ukrainian drone, but still. As for those helicopters, they were flying like over our heads, very, very close to us. I think at a range of probably like 50-60 meters away. It's nothing. I mean, you can hit a helicopter from 60 meters using like anything. What? During this historic stream, I need to take the shift from order of rodent of anger and say, Operator Starsky needs a cat. Is this how you call a wife nowadays? What you vaping on? I'm not vaping. It's just like IQOS. It's a steam, but it's not a steam. Anyways, you don't need to know about it. Smoking is bad. Elf bars. I tried elf bars. They're not bad, but the problem with elf bars is that you smoke them everywhere. And for example, if you need to find another place to smoke, you cannot smoke in your bed and things like that. With elf bars, you smoke 24/7, which sucks. Okay, and my father said that he's watching the stream as well. Have you watched the Ukrainian Rambo clip? Yeah, that Predator guy. Yeah, he's amazing. We have a lot of such videos from our trenches, from our positions in Bakhmut and in Rubizhne, and we have quite a lot of footage from there. Not everything we can show in the social media, for obvious reasons. But that dude, he's legendary, absolutely. How hot is the news that Putin withdrew recognition of Transnistria officially? Officially? Really? That is interesting. That is unexpected. Say a proper hello to your father. Батьку привіт. Have you ever rode a sport bike? I didn't. If I'm buying a bike, it's gonna be a chopper. But I'm not buying a bike anytime soon. Hello, Papa Starsky. Do you chew tobacco? No, no way. Predator, Call of Duty. I don't know. I didn't play Call of Duty for like years. Daughter of Texas, how was the morale when Mariupol had fallen to the Russians? Usually you don't celebrate that. And of course, we worried about those guys that were defending Mariupol. I lost several friends there prior to the invasion. Like 2 days before the invasion, I had a stream with one of the press officers in Azov, and he was my good buddy. And he was, I think, he had some Russian roots even, but he was Ukrainian patriot, and he served in Azov. And only 1 month after his death, I learned that he died. How's your kit aircraft build coming along? Joseph, I have a big problem because sometimes I bring like journalists there and show them my kit aircraft, and sometimes they take parts, which is kind of funny, because when foreign journalists make their reports from this area, sometimes they ask, whom does this wreck belong to? And I'm like, good question, like nobody needs that. So sometimes they take parts. That's why I have to delay the finishing of my kit aircraft, because I need more parts, and I have to find another mouse. Does Fudge have a uniform? He has like a ginger fur coat. What's the ugliest thing you found after the orcs left Hostomel? a lot of feces. You can see it on one of my videos that I made from that visit to our barracks days after they were liberated. And they left a lot of feces for some reason. And we have, like, in a normal barracks, you have two different toilets in different wings of the structure of the building. And this toilet, like each toilet can be used by like 20 people at the same time. For some reason, orcs put sand into those toilets and they clogged them completely. I don't know why. It's a mystery to me. I don't know why they did it. Instead, what they did, they lived in those barracks, but we had like metal lockers, so they made a wall of those metal lockers. On one side of this wall, they would sleep and eat. On the other side, they made toilets using bricks, and they did their stuff there, which was 1 meter away from their beds. Guys, calling them pigs is insulting pigs, actually. I swear. You gotta check one of those videos. It's still there with like bottles of urine and things like that. I have. They say that you have to respect your enemy. I have zero respect to orcs. Zero. They don't deserve it. This is a Buryat thing, guys. They used to make fire inside the building, like on the floor. We had a wooden floor, and they used to make fire on the floor and cook food. And 2 meters away from this fire, they had a makeshift toilet. They are insane. Feces is the business card of a Russian soldier and probably officer, I think. They're despicable. We had to bring like a priest and baptize everything, to scare off all the evil spirits they brought to. I'm just kidding, but so do you think the orcs are Islamists? Philip, I think they are some specific breed of pigs and dogs. I don't care about their religion as well, like at all. However, I have a theory, because there are cases when Russian priests pray next to this nuclear missile called Satan. And that makes it very, very clear to me what specific religion they have. So you can say you smelled the Russian world after they left Hostomel. This is crazy, because in some houses you can still smell this Russian world. Like, seriously, I don't know what kind of stuff to use to get rid of it, but you can still smell it. It's like it's a stench that reminds you of feces, genitals, and ashes. That is the smell of the Russian world. Tinke. Oh, here in the Finland we have old saying, in Russia what isn't feces, it have to be the urine. We have that in Ukraine as well. Yeah, I know that it's a widespread thing. Um, please don't insult pigs and dogs. I'm so sorry. Cabbage. I don't know. I mean, um, I know how. Like, I know the smell of corpse, right? Of human beings. Unfortunately, orcs don't smell like human beings. For some reason, it's like I don't know what they consume before death to smell like that, but it's horrible. We found one. I will not show you this picture, but we found one like 5 meters away from Maria. Actually, there was big pile of Russian vehicles that were destroyed, and among those piles we found one good orc, and in April, it was like April, May, I think we found the body, and it was still cold, so it wasn't bad. But in June, it became really really hot. So this orc started spreading smell. Okay, and at some point we had 5 ministers of interior coming to Hostomel, and they had a press conference, and there was 100 journalists from all around the world, and that orc was lying just like 12 meters away from the stage or whatever, and when the wind blew towards us, oh my god, luckily it was taken away. You will definitely need a vacation after this war. Is probably the vodka pickling their bodies. I think so, Nancy. And I agree on vodka and on vacation. Um, I was wondering your opinion on foreigners journalists being there reporting. Non-press? Journalists are press. But again, Coil, I think that any sort of foreigner in Ukraine, it's a big psychological support for us. And we're always happy to see people from other countries. You gotta understand that psychologically, you see, Ukrainians, we are fighting for this land. That's why we cannot leave this land. We cannot run away. We are closed here, and we have to stay here and fight for our lives, okay, for our future. And at the same time, like now I have you guys, I have friends abroad, right? But we can only talk. We cannot have like pizza together or beer together, and that's why sometimes we feel a bit lonely. Like we feel this support, but we are still feel like we are alone versus Russians. And when we see foreigners coming to Ukraine and actually supporting us, you cannot imagine the relief that we feel that moment. Even though it's like we don't call people from other countries to come here often because it's still dangerous. Every city is still a front line because it can be a target to Russian cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. But to us, seeing foreigners is a big, big psychological relief. Barbara, what exactly do you think is going to become of this war? Does it scare you? if it will be nuclear. I don't think it will be nuclear because Russians don't fight because they want to die, even if they do. But look, all the messages regarding nuclear weapons, all the messages regarding, I don't know, you tell me, sophisticated Russian weapons that can destroy West and things like that, you will hear a lot of that. For a very simple reason, because those things they supposed to scare you, and that's why exactly Russians talk about it, and they share all the messages regarding this in the media and stuff, because they want to scare you. That is the only reason they talk about it so much. It's not because they really want to use those weapons. Day before the invasion, in the United Nations, in the General Assembly of the United Nations, that by the way is ongoing right now regarding Ukraine, 1 year ago, Russian representative was saying, like, why are you so hysteric? We are not going to attack Ukraine. We are not going to occupy any territory. You remember that? And 2 days before that, Lavrov was also saying the same BS. Exactly since the moment when they started saying that they are not going to occupy Ukraine, that was the moment when I knew that they were gonna attack 100%. Because you don't listen to what they say. It makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely. If you start taking Russians seriously, if you start reacting to their words or even listening to them, that's exactly the moment when their informational weapon starts working, because it's intended. It's supposed to work this way. It's supposed to scare you. This is why they talk. This is why they speak physically, because when Russian official speaks, when you see his lips moving, this is a good sign that at this very moment, this individual is carrying out a combat mission. This is how their military operation looks like. It's when they talk. We have to stop that. Sucks too, yeah. It's always 180 degrees opposite with their words. Absolutely. There is no point in listening to them. A lot of people were like catching lols and giggles yesterday when Putin spoke for 2 hours, and he didn't say anything new. But at the same time, I spent those 2 hours of my life doing more important things, because I knew what he was gonna say, and it makes absolutely no sense to listen to Putin. Why it is still bonfire season in Russia? It's rather smoking season in Russia, and it will never end, because it's very hard to quit smoking, as we know. Will Transnistria be liberated soon? I really hope it will. Justin of the Beaver. Do you know how to tell a Russian official is lying? You can see their lips move. Absolutely. I've heard this exact phrase, oh my god, in 2008, I think, from an American friend. And oh my god, he was right. Just saw your interview on our news. Oh my god, I gotta see it myself. Guys, you will see a lot of interviews with me soon because I think I gave interviews to all kinds of international media of the world during this week. О май гад! Леонардо, привіт з Ірпеня, дякуємо за захист. Дякуємо за підтримку. Ірпінь сила. Can Johnny FD play your body double? I guess. I think I'm the one who's supposed to play his double. Okay. We can say we knew you before you were famous. Guys, it's such a shame to be famous because of the war, actually. You have no idea. Where else can we find you on YouTube? If you mean my blog in Ukrainian, it's Haritin Starsky, but it's in Cyrillics. Not sure if you use this those letters. And actually, there's not much interesting things. I had a channel in Ukrainian with different episodes dedicated to civilians, what to do in case of war, in case of shelling, and things like that. And it was 1 year before the invasion, because 1 year before the invasion, Russians already had military exercise in Belarus, and there were hordes of them. And I decided to start making those videos, especially before the invasion, like months before the invasion. I started making videos for our territorial defense, just basics of like tactics and things like that. And people were insulted. They were like, why are you scaring us? There will be no war. I wish they were right. Andy, Putin called us pedophiles. Yeah, we were called Nazis, you were called pedophiles, and prostitutes in Cardiff specifically, by the way. I don't know what's wrong with Cardiff, but anyways. Operator Starsky versus Patrick Lancaster. I think it would be the fastest duel in the history. Will there be more skits? Flash, I tried to make a skit. I failed. But if I have time, I will make some. Your thoughts on good Russians? Today on a Twitter, actually, I found some very nice video when that Rage Against Ukraine rally was taking place in Washington, D.C. There was a guy on a bike just listening to all that unholy, inhumane event. And he had like a blue-yellow flag attached to his bike. And one of the bystanders made a video with him. He asked like, are you Ukrainian or something like that? And he said, no, I'm Russian. I live in the US, but I'm Russian. And they were like, why do you have a blue-yellow flag attached to your bike? And he's like, I always have blue-yellow flag with me. because even though I'm Russian, but I support Ukrainians and I don't support my country for what it's doing. And it's not good Russian, it's perfect Russian. Good Russians usually don't talk at all. Mark, Operator Starsky, can you comment on Ukraine's use of weaponized squirrels? I cannot talk about it because it's a big state secret, okay, and you should not talk about it as well. Let's keep it a secret because it's something that we cannot talk much, you know. What are you expecting from Russians tomorrow? So it's a good question, Kim. We expect some missile strike. Probably there will be some air raid, but tomorrow there will be no Armageddon. Trust me. Currently, Russians use everything they can. Yesterday, we deflected almost 90 attacks in just 24 hours. Russians trying to push with everything they have, but they already reached their limit. I don't think that they will be able to surprise us with anything extraordinary tomorrow. Trust me. Even if there's a missile strike, there were 20 missile strikes already and we got used to it. They don't have 40 million missiles to kill all Ukrainians. Are squirrels more effective bioweapons than pigeons? I think pigeons are effective because they can fly. But squirrels can be effective as well because they're so fast, you know. So they have different purpose. And pigeons are they belong to our air force, and squirrels belong to our armed forces, our infantry. So those are two different branches, but they're both important. Alrighty, guys, I gotta go, really. Lola, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, I gotta go because I gotta catch some sleep prior to our stream with Mercado Media. Don't forget to check us out in 3 hours. And tomorrow we will have this huge stream at the Enforcers channel together with Dennis Davidov, Ukraine Matters, and all my buddies. So yeah. Thank you so much for being together with me tonight. It was a pleasure, and luckily I was able to tell you this story because it's unfair, you know. I told it to all kinds of journalists, but by the way, they never saw that video. So you're the first ones who saw it for real. Alrighty, thank you so much, and be safe. See you tomorrow. And in a month and in a year. I cannot even I'm not even able to read all those commentaries, guys. There are so many of them. Thank you so much. See you and be safe. And thank you for supporting Ukraine. My name is Operator Starsky. As always, thanks for watching, my friends.